Welcome to another episode of Hard to Beat. I'm Caribbean entrepreneur Felicia Prasad.
And I'm Reginald Riddit.
And today it's Caribbean American Heritage Month. It's June, and that means we're celebrating Caribbean American heritage in the United States. And again, for another year, the President of the United States has issued a proclamation declaring June National Caribbean American Heritage Month, Reg.
That's true, Felicia. And there are so many, from Denmark Vesey, Prince Hall, John Russwurm, and even a Caribbean-born founding father that will shock the entire audience. Get this, Felicia, Alexander Hamilton is from the Caribbean islands.
That is absolutely true. And Reg, what is interesting about Caribbean Heritage Month is that a lot of people think that we just got off the boat and we just got here. And, they always say, oh, you need to go back on the boat where you came from. Well, we did not come really on a boat. In fact, we were here since slavery, and slaves like Denmark Vesey were brought to this country in the 1700s. And actually, he became the first slave who revolted in the US. So he led the first slave rebellion here in this country. And that's how far back we go. But this week in this episode, we're not talking just about history and serious topics. We're actually paying tribute to the ancestors in a whole other way this month. And that is with our sayings and proverbs that actually go back and resonate, I think, with many Caribbean people. But also we are exposing our global audience of listeners and viewers to Caribbean sayings that they too can use in this Caribbean American Heritage Month, Reg.
Yeah, Felicia, I think it's going to be really exciting. I'm excited about this. It's going to be comical, to say the least. I will say before we get started, I am not a self-proclaimed Caribbean-born American, so forgive my accent as we get into this. But I will try my best to make you proud, Felicia. I will try my best not to embarrass you.
I will definitely. I think you're going to do great. And so we're talking about 10. We're going to give you 10 sayings in this episode. And by the time you're done, you're going to be speaking Caribbean as well. And so, Reg, what are those sayings that I actually love? And I use it myself, actually, with my Caribbean friends, of course, and not you. But it's one of those that says, monkey know a limb for jump on. And let me just repeat that for my global friends. Monkey know a limb for jump on. And so what does it mean? It means generally in Caribbean circles that people know the level of nonsense that they can actually bring to some people and can't to others. For instance, many people who know me very well know that I don't tolerate BS. I have zero tolerance for it. And so guess what? They don't really bring any BS to me, or they do very little of it. And so basically what happens is I just call them out or hand it right back. And hence the saying, monkey know a limb for jump on.
Oh, yeah, that was a good one, Felicia. And I've actually heard you say that one before. So I'm very familiar with what that means. So moving into our saying number 2, I try to keep mine very, very small, very, very short, Felicia, because I'm not going to embarrass myself on this podcast today. So the first one that I have is us, ya. So when we hear this, we might think that someone's trying to tell us to shut up or be quiet. But in the Caribbean, more specifically the Jamaican region, this is a saying of empathy or sympathy. So when you think about us, ya, you think of like hush, ya. So they would say something around, I'm going to turn off my Caribbean accent now, Felicia. They would say something around the lines of, oh, I know you had a bad day, us, ya. So basically saying, it'll be fine. Everything will be okay. Just hush.
Yeah, like Bob Marley would say, don't worry about a thing.
Don't worry about a thing.
Exactly. And so, Reg, we're moving on to number 3 already. It's kind of going fast, but this is one that my grandmother actually used to use a lot when we were little, and we wanted to grow up fast. And she would say, pig asking mama, why your mouth so long? She said, wait, your time a come. And so basically the translation goes like this. Of course, kids, we want to grow up quick. We want to really become adults, but it's saying that, listen, just enjoy being kids, enjoy being carefree. because you really have no real problems as kids. The changes come as adults when you encounter all kinds of challenges that you have to turn into opportunities. But the challenges come. And so that's basically what my granny would say is, see, now your time come.
Yeah, Felicia, speaking of that one, when you become an adult, you really understand that your troubles, you were so carefree as a kid, you didn't even think about anything, and so now that makes perfect sense. I love these proverbs. I love these life lessons. So in our last one, we kind of spoke about Bob Marley. And in the last one I presented, we kind of spoke about Bob Marley. So the next one is kind of it says, "Don't hurt your head." And so it's very similar to the English translation, "Don't hurt your head," commonly used in Trinidad, meaning don't worry about your situation, everything will be okay. Don't hurt your brain thinking about things that you can't change. So that for me, Felicia, spoke volumes, especially when we talk to our audience about positive affirmations and just, remembering that everything will be okay and the universe works in our favor. That one spoke loudly to me.
Well, I'm glad for that, because it's really something. I mean, sometimes, Reggie, now you're saying it, it's kind of like I'm remembering it. And I'm like, oh yeah, I remember that one. So basically it really is just like Bob Marley says, woman, don't cry. Basically, listen, don't worry about a thing, it's Irie, it's cool, and it's gonna be okay. And so that's really what the saying is. So hopefully the audience can really take that one, and run with that, because I know that one is pretty simple to use. Now, I'm actually going on to another, and I think we're at number 5 already. But this word, I think it's sort of universally Caribbean. I know you've identified some that are Jamaicans and Trinidadians, but this one I think is universally Caribbean, at least I think so. And most people will use the word de, why you de, or adehi, or, medaya, that sort of thing would basically be, it could be when somebody asks you, how are you? You can also respond, mede, in that sort of like, oh, I'm just here, kind of not really good or bad, but just like I'm here. Or people could say, why you de? In reference to where are you, obviously. So that's the meaning of that. So de is sort of like a word that I think most Caribbeans go back to all the time and use a lot. So it's like it just fits into everything. Medea, how you do, Medea. That sort of like way of using it, and that's really how we use it in the Caribbean.
Oh yeah. So Felicia, just to kind of give an expansion there, I'm going to start saying "me there" when you ask me how I'm doing, because for sure when you message me, Felicia, we message each other every day, and my response is always "I'm here." So I'm going to start saying "me there."
Medea. You can always also say Medea. So that's one that I think every Caribbean person says. Every time somebody asks them something, and they really just want to be like, yeah. Medea, things are not good or bad, but hanging in.
Yeah.
Medea.
As the Spanish would say, más o menos. But I'm going to kind of move on to the next one. Felicia, you kind of gave my next one away when you spoke about Marley and Jamaica, saying Irie. So this word is predominantly used in Jamaica. Irie meaning all good. If you listen to, Felicia was talking about Bob Marley, "No woman, no cry," and 3 little birds sitting on my doorstep, don't worry about a thing, that type of vibe. Because Jamaican people do believe that everything works out for the good and that we are always being watched over by our ancestors. So everything is Irie, is what they'll say. And it's a very common phrase in Jamaica.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course. I think everybody in the world should know that, at least. Absolutely. If you've ever gone to Jamaica, I think that is the one word that everybody knows, everything Irie, everything is always Irie. So it's just cool, everything is good. It's just positive vibes. And I think that's really what people love more about Jamaicans the world over. It's just the positivity that no matter what happens, they bring that whole Irie mentality to everything.
Right. And if I could just pause you for a minute there, you said something that kind of sparked a thought that I had in my mind about this podcast a little earlier. You said everything is so cool. And when you look at these Caribbean proverbs, as we want to call them, or Caribbean sayings or words or phrases, they're always so cool and airy. Like the ones you said about the monkey hanging from the limb. Who would have thought to say something like that? You know, but Caribbean people are so cool. Like I don't want to go off on a tangent here, but it's like we just say, everything's fine. And people say Irie or hush ya or don't hurt your head. And those things are so cool. It just gets me excited just talking about it. But I'll stop now.
Well, I think it's a good thing to kind of wander off into, Reg, because, when we talk about the ancestors, we're talking about many people who came from Africa and all over the world. In fact, from India, from China, from Portugal. And that's really what formed the melting pot of the Caribbean. And all of their languages essentially kind of creolized into the whole system. So whether they were in Jamaica or Guyana or Trinidad, essentially pieces of their language, whether they came from Ghana or they came from Nigeria or they came from India, all of that kind of like came in linguistically and became this melting pot that is not just the food and the culture, but also reflects a lot in the language. And I know, the British, of course, tried to really, especially in the British Caribbean, tried to make us become so very British and speak properly, right. And, look down on the sort of Creole that came out from our ancestors and say, oh, well, you're not speaking properly. You need to speak the Queen's English. But this is really what makes us Caribbean. It is that sort of linguistic part of our culture that I think too oftentimes we really ignore.
Yeah, and Felicia, I just like to take a second to acknowledge your background. You are on the Caribbean island, whichever one you want to be on right now is where you are. But speaking in regards to what you just said, when you go to most Caribbean islands, you have, when you talk about the Dutch, you have a Dutch and a British side of most of those Caribbean islands. And when I was doing my research a little earlier, Felicia, I know you're from Guyana, and I did not know that there was a British side of Guyana. Is there a Dutch side as well?
Yeah, there was a Dutch in Suriname, which is now Suriname. So it's really, our history with slavery and the colonializers basically have made us into the people, I guess, that we are.
Yeah, most definitely.
And then there is another Caribbean word that we use a lot called lime. We're not talking about the fruit lime, but lime, as in let me bust a lime, let me hang out. That sort of thing is something that we use a lot. And I think it's pretty much all across the Caribbean when people say, where the lime at, means where the party at, or let we go lime, let's go party, let's go hang out. So lime it's an easy word that you can also incorporate into your vernacular in terms of when you want to speak Caribbean, so to speak.
Cool. I do have something to add to that, Felicia. I was actually just listening to an interview with Queen Latifah, who is not Caribbean. However, she was stating that she was in Trinidad and Tobago, and she was asking about the origin of liming, and the travel guide, the tour guide, which they lie to us all the time, but the tour guide told her that came from when people would lie on the beach, when natives would lie on the beach, bugs would bother them and fly up on their skins, and they would put like lime on their skin to kind of keep the bugs away, and so they call it liming around. I don't know how true that is, but
I don't know either.
Hey.
I don't know that story, but that's interesting. Actually, it's interesting. It's just like, I just think we take these things for granted. Growing up, it just seemed like normal. It's like, oh, how we go lime. It's like, yeah, okay, cool.
Somebody said it, everybody said it. So moving on to I believe we're at number 8 now, Felicia. So this one also comes from Trinidad, and it's a saying, all skin, teeth, a laugh. So in Trinidad,
actually, let me just kind of correct you on that one. All skin, teeth, no laugh.
Okay, all right, well. No, all skin, teeth, no laugh. Okay, so in Trinidad, skin teeth refers to smiling. This one is really good. I identify with this one because it basically speaks of life lessons and philosophy. So getting kind of serious with this one, this phrase means that everyone that smiles with you doesn't have good intentions for you. So all skin teeth, no laugh.
Yeah, exactly. All skin teeth, no laugh. It's like, it really, it doesn't mean because somebody is really, like you said, smiling with you means that they're happy for you, or really want the good for you. So it's really, all skin teeth, no laugh. So the other word, and it's kind of like something that especially in Guyana, we use this a lot. Sometimes people say, you're pomposetting yourself. It's really about like showing off yourself. So people will say, oh, she loved to pomposet yourself, or he loved to pomposet himself. And basically it means, again, you're just, those people like to show off. They like to, pretend they're so big and so great. And they're always, like the influencers, some of them on social media, they love to pomposet themselves. So that's what the meaning really is. But it really is scary because a lot of old people would say, listen, try not to pomposet yourself so much. In a warning, like, listen, just chill. Let's gotta cool it, okay? Don't be all over the place.
So is that what that I've heard somebody say like pompous asshole? Is that kind of like the Caribbean base of like
yes,
like
yes.
asshole?
It definitely now that you say it, it definitely is. Really, it definitely is the same.
Cool. Yeah, I'm learning. I love this. I'm learning. I'm going to be speaking Caribbean, quote unquote, speaking Caribbean after this. So the last one, which spoke to, also all of them spoke to me, but this one definitely spoke to me. The dog that carry a bone will carry one. The dog that bring a bone will carry one is the saying. Yeah. Sorry about that. So this one speaks to specifically the person that gossips with you will gossip about you. And Felicia, this has been something that, in the African American community, we say this all the time. Don't think that just because someone's talking with you, they want to talk about you all the time. And so when you have coworkers, when you have friends, if they're going to sit there and talk with you about someone, they're going to talk about you. So be very careful of who you choose to talk with.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So a dog that brings a bone carries a bone. It's very simple, and I think the imagery in that is so obvious. If you think about it, really. So the last one that I actually have is, Caribbean people, we always love to use the name Jesus, or actually, as my granny used to say, we love to take the Lord's name in vain. Everything that we say, we always have this exclamation, like Jesus, or Jesus, or oh Jesus. And so it's that sort of dramatic thing. If somebody tells you some story and you're like, oh Jesus, and you basically have that outrage or that exclamation, or if somebody annoys you, like, oh Jesus, please. And so it's that sort of like, we constantly, I think everybody says it. I've heard the Haitians also say it. Of course, in Guyana, Jamaica, pretty much all across the Caribbean, people always have these different intonations of how they use the word Jesus. Of course, we're a very religious community of people, and it's always, I guess, it reflected here. But somehow, like my grandmother used to say, we forget that we're not supposed to take the Lord's name in vain. So we're always saying, oh Jesus. But really it's the same as people say, oh God, or OMG. It's pretty much the same thing. We just have a little bit more drama to ours when we have that inflection and intonation that and how we use it as basically what we say when we're mad, or when we're surprised, or when we're shocked, is always, oh Jesus.
Yeah, I was also reading something earlier that said you can hide behind a plexiglass wall, and see two Caribbean people talking and know exactly what they're saying from the expressions, the intonations, and the dramatics of the conversation. Like you can definitely tell what they're saying without even hearing the words. And so when you speak of dramatics and expressions and all of that, it definitely makes sense.
Well, I don't know about that, Rich, because there are lots of things that I haven't disclosed that we say, and I don't think you'll understand, especially if Camille and I were talking. So that would be a whole other show.
Oh, yeah.
But anyway, I think we had fun on this episode.
Most definitely, most definitely, most definitely. I learned a lot about, the Caribbean and the sayings, and the translation to English is kind of like people will be like, what in the hell are they talking about? But then when you think about it a little bit, the what is the first one that you said? Going back to the very first one, because I think that was the most abstract one. Monkey know what limb but jump on. And so that right there is like, what the hell are they talking about? But then when you think about it, it's like, okay, I won't jump on this limb because I know it's gonna break.
Exactly. And I think that is the thing about, if people really understand Caribbean people, we're very like straight up and honest and sort of even like visual in our language. So it really just says exactly what it means. That's really, I think, across the region, people just have sayings that really explain exactly what it means. But I think this was a fun episode. And I hope that our global audience actually learned something. And then for Caribbean listeners, I hope they actually were reminded of a really great moment in their past, or maybe growing up, or something that they may go back and reflect on. And, hopefully, as we celebrate and continue to celebrate Caribbean American Heritage Month, we can all see the synergies that make us really a great people across the region, but also across the world.
Most definitely, Felicia. Couldn't have said it better.
Well, that's all the time we have. Until next month, happy Caribbean American Heritage Month. I'm Felicia.
And I'm Reggie, wishing you love and light.